Hey everybody, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook throughout the show for your chance to win some great prizes, including your own copy of Akhwatsirehkó, My Big Family.
Sega, Sega. So now has anyone yet? Can you the name of the wala? Can you go how you go and Jonah? Hi everyone, I'm Tyson Bomberry.
Hi, I'm Ryden Bomberry.
And we're gonna be doing the opening address here for you guys today. When joke was so I'll see us today. Negari on Honda Gully with what I don't want to know next. I'm going to go Uska and do the walkway Nooney, Nan Wantingola. I don't dare to know how lot of snake. Ungwe so and turn it out near Wantingola. I'm going to go Uska and do the walkway Nooney, Nan Wantingola. I don't dare to know how lot of snake. It's hitting so hard, Johan Jare. I turn it out near Wantingola. I'm going to go Uska and do the walkway Nooney, Nan Wantingola. I don't dare to know how lot of snake. Your ton Dooney. I turn it out near Wantingola. I'm going to go Uska and do the walkway Nooney, Nan Wantingola. I don't dare to know how lot of snake. On Dunkwat so I turn it out near Wantingola. Agora Oscar and the Wahway Nuni Nan Wantingola, Darren Day to Nuhalas Ne, Kahik Sua, and Tony Dohak Nan Wantingola. Agora Oscar and the Wahway Nuni Nan Wantingola, Darren Day to Nuhalas Ne, John Hekwa, Tony Dohak Nan Wantingola. Agora Oscar and the Wahway Nuni Nan Wantingola, Darren Day to Nuhalas Ne, Galunda Sua, and Tony Dohak Nan Wantingola. Agora Oscar and the Wahway Nuni Nan Wantingola, Darren Day to Nuhalas Ne, Ojinuat Sua. Turn it down near Wantingola. I'm going to go Oscar and the Wahway Nooney near Wantingola. That day to Nuhalas Ne, Gayo that too. I turn it down near Wantingola.
I'm going to go Oscar and the Wahway Nooney near Wantingola. That's the day to Nuhalas Ne, Ojina Abdua. I turn it down near Wantingola. I'm going to go Oscar and the Wahway Nooney near Wantingola. That's the day to Nuhalas Ne, Gael Nicola, Giato Lege, and Jagage going to go to Giate Santos. I turn it down near Wantingola. Guego Oscar and the Wahway Nini and Guatnigo, that the Yeti Holados Ne, Oscar get Yetisa Togo Ladivelas, Eterate the Hawk and Guatnigo, Guego Oscar and the Wahway Nini and Guatnigo, that the Chitwan Holados Ne, Oscar get the go Wajidawaji, Ajo Kinaka Galaqua, Eterate the Hawk and Guatnigo. Guego Oscar and the Wahway Nini and Guatnigo, that the Yeti Holados Ne, Yetiseta Asantanaka and Needle. It's a dark name, what you go. I'll go a scan to the Wahway Nini and what you go. Then the day to know what I just say. Oh, Jesus. Yo, just a colonial Hage. It's a dark name, what you go. I'll go a scan to the Wahway Nini and what you go. Then the day to know what I just say. The alien name way to get. It's a dark name, what you go. I'll go a scan to the Wahway Nini and what you go. Then the children of what I just say. Some guy at this song. It's a dark name, what you go. On a turn all day, what Gilly, what Grady, dog got 10 us and getting go easily next so I could have got to go on again. It's a dark name, what you go.
Naneto.
And a big now go to Tyson Bomberry for bringing our minds together with the opening address. And a big Sego to everybody joining us here today. It's a big day, and we are celebrating the grand release of our book, Akhwatsirehkó, My Big Family. Our game, our experience, our way. For those of you at home wondering what My Big Family is about, this book's about an encapsulation of the stories in Lacrosse from around the world as told from a Haudenosaunee perspective and using traits within our own Haudenosaunee culture. My name is Brenner Jacobs. I am an Oneida Nation Turtle Clan, and I'm from Six Nations of the Grand River. So I played lacrosse most of my life, and I've been playing as far back as I can remember. I played right here at Six Nations. I enjoyed my time at North Shore in North Vancouver, British Columbia. And then I've also enjoyed my time in Welland, London, Wallaceburg, and I'm joined by my co-author and co-host here today, Brendan Bomberry.
Thanks, Brenner. Like Brenner said, happy to be here. Happy you guys can join us. Like he said, it's a big day with the release of Akhwatsirehkó. Like he said, my name is Brendan Bomberry. I'm Mohawk Turtle Clan from here in Six Nations, Ontario, the Grand River, and I've been involved with lacrosse since I was 3 years old. I've been playing, and I still play today. I grew up playing the local minor association here, played all the way up. From there, my goal was to play for the Junior A Arrows. I was lucky to live out that dream for 7 years, and was able to win 2 Minto Cups with the Six Nations Arrows. From there, I was able to, also during that time, I was in school at the Hill Academy, which is a pretty prestigious high school for lacrosse, and it kind of helped elevate my academics to allow me to, pursue lacrosse scholarship in the NCAA. And after Six Nations Arrows and after the Minto Cups, I was able to travel to the University of Denver and spend 2 years there, playing for legendary coach Bill Tierney, and we won NCAA National Championship in 2015. After my sophomore year, I transferred to the Syracuse University just to be closer to home and my son. So I was able to, play there for 2 years and, really be a part of, something. I guess the biggest thing for me growing up, another dream of mine was to play for the Syracuse Orangemen. I watched my Uncle Marshall play there, and it was, guys like Cody Jamison and Sid Smith all play there, so it was one of the dreams of mine to play in the Carrier Dome, so I was lucky enough to be able to, live out that dream as well, so that was really cool. From there, I was able to get drafted to the NLL, to the Georgia Swarm, 7th overall, and I've been playing there ever since, and that's where I play now.
That's awesome, and that's quite the career, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so today marks a huge day. It's been a long time coming, and for me especially, I started this project in September of 2018, and back then it was just a small, 50-page booklet, and it wasn't really anything close to what it's become today.
It's triple that now, isn't it?
I think it is. I honestly, yeah, I think it is hitting 350 pages. It's crazy how big this thing has become. So the original project was supposed to be, somewhere, in the small booklet area, about 50 to 75 pages. And then as I got working on it, just soon found out how many stories there are in lacrosse. And when I first started working on this, you look at other lacrosse books, right? They're really based in the history of the game and around the rules of the game and around how those evolved over time. But nothing's really dove into who the players are, what kind of players are within this game. And as I start researching more and more, I start becoming more interested into who is Cody Jamison? He's this awesome player, but who is he really? So from then on, I kind of switched my way of thinking towards maybe we can find these deep-seated stories that are within this game that have gone untold for so long.
Yeah, I think you're right there. It's easy for us to know the Cody Jamison story because he's right here in our backyard, but the common lacrosse fan from across the world, they might not know his story, and maybe they can kind of relate to that, and that's something that we really wanted to bring out.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I found is that through my travels, I participated in the Akhwatsirehkó tournament over in the Czech Republic in Prague. And what I found is there's such a huge love of the game over there, and it was way bigger than anything I had even thought of. I thought I was going over there where players wouldn't be as high caliber, they wouldn't be in the same physical shape, but boy was I completely wrong. And they take the game seriously over there, and it brings me up being a Haudenosaunee person too, right? Because you wouldn't even have thought that
to see the game you love have that much of an impact to people across the world.
Exactly, and that's really meaningful to me. So those things pop out to me during this project, and that was something that really hopped out at me as well, where I could see just how big this book could possibly be. The Akhwatsirehkó tournament itself is a memorial tournament for one of their best players that ever played the game there. He was tragically killed in a car accident, and I think that has a lot to do with the healing aspect of lacrosse. We call it the medicine game in our culture, and that medicine comes in a lot of different shapes and forms, I believe. And I think that it has different ways of healing you and different ways of helping you throughout your life, and I think that's just another that's just another example of that, right? Our next guest, again, comes from the Six Nations of the Grand River Territory, Cody Jamison. And Cody Jamison is a terrific lacrosse player. What do you have to say, Bombs?
What more can I say about Jammer? I mean, he's one of the most decorated lacrosse players in history. I think he's one of the best all-around leaders, teammates, and I grew up idolizing him as a kid, and I know a lot of other kids did as well. And he's done so much for the game, and he just continues to roll right through. And now he's kind of giving back to the youth and coaching at the same time playing in his career. And I have a long list here of accolades, so bear with me. So he is a two-time NCJAA national champion with Onondaga Community College, where he was also a two-time NCJAA All-American with Onondaga Blazers. And in 2009, he went on to the NCAA Division I national title, where he transferred to Syracuse University. He also won a Minto Cup with Six Nations Junior A Arrows in 2007. After his college and junior days, he was a three-time NLL champion with the Rochester Nighthawks. And he is also a three-time Mann Cup national champion with the Six Nations Chiefs, as well as an MLL Steinfeld Cup with the then Toronto Nationals. And he is also a captain of the Iroquois Nationals and the Halifax Thunderbirds. All right, Cody, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. What have you been up to since we last spoke?
Yeah, I've been trying to keep as busy as I can in these strange times. I have 3 children at home, so it's a lot of playing games. Nowadays, trying to get outside as much as we can. It's tough to get the boys outside and to play. They'd rather stay inside on the technology and devices that they have. But it's a lot of quality family time, and I'm very appreciative for that, because usually I'm on the go, and usually I'm here one day, gone somewhere the next. But during these crazy times, I've got to really spend time with my family, which is something I cherish a lot.
A new deal and some great additions with Halifax Thunderbirds. How excited are you to get back to Halifax, and how excited are you to get back playing again?
Yeah, back playing is something that that I really can't wait for. It's been very weird for me. The first 2 weeks was pretty cool. Not having to worry about lacrosse and not having to worry about where I was going next, or what part of my body I was icing or not feeling the best. But after those 2 weeks, I got bored very quickly, and this isn't. I haven't had anything like this since I was born, and it's been troubling. It's been lacrosse is easy to keep me out of trouble. Let's just say that. So I've missed it a lot, and especially with the group we have, with the boys that we have in Halifax. It's been a special year so far. We've been there just over a year, so I think I could say the whole team's excited to get back to the East Coast. Everybody out there treats us very well, right from the moment we got there. And as we started winning some lacrosse games, we saw the arena getting fuller and fuller. No doubt we would have had a sold-out arena, by the end of the year and leading into the playoffs, which it looked like we were, destined to make a long run. So I think our whole team is excited to get back to Halifax and get back to playing in front of our home crowd, which I think is truly one of the best. I've played in the NLL a long time. I think our home crowd is already truly one of the best crowds that there is in the league. I think they give us a distinct home floor advantage, night in and night out, and and it's still growing, and it's still only going to get better. So I think everybody's excited to get back there. I'm very excited to get back there and to continue what we started.
Jammer, as a longtime captain and leader of the Iroquois Nationals, what does it mean for the Iroquois Nationals to finally get into those World Games at the Birmingham, Alabama?
Yeah, it means a lot to myself personally. Seeing our people, seeing our brothers, seeing our sisters compete at that level. Seeing them compete against the world's best. I think it's something that should have happened all along, and I don't think that it should have got that far, but it's good that we're taking the necessary steps to help make us make that jump, to make that transition to play in 2022.
Oh, you expressed giving back to youth within your article. What does it mean to you personally and your community to continue to give back to the youth within this game?
Yeah, so lacrosse for me was a tool that I used to benefit, not only myself but my family. I got to go pursue an education, a higher education, one that I wouldn't have got if I didn't play lacrosse. So I use lacrosse as a tool to help me get that, to help me go there. I got a college and university education now, and I can honestly say that lacrosse is 99% the reason why I got to do that. As well as the places that I've been, the things I've seen, the friendships that I've made have all been through lacrosse. So, for our community and for all the natives, all the nations around, all our youth, all our Ongwahoma youth, to have what I got to witness, to see what I've got to see, to do what I've got to do, I want that for the youth, and I want them to go and pursue their wildest dreams. And I've done more in my lifetime already than I ever thought I would growing up. So it's up to us as the older ones now to kind of show them what's possible, show them what we have done, pass on our knowledge, and let them pass us and go beyond our wildest dreams.
You spoke to a lot of people who speak very highly of you, Jammer, and we just want to know, is there anybody in lacrosse that you'd want to read about?
Yeah, I'm a very avid reader, so I've read books on a lot of people, a lot of native people, a lot of famous athletes. I've always said, Kim Squire would be a great documentary. Darius Kilgore is somebody who I truly look up to, and I think he is one of the best motivators that I've been around. So it'd be great to see his story and listen to some of the things that made him who he was, and who he is, I should say, not who he was. He's still very much a motivator for a lot of us. So kind of make what makes him tick.
Oh, we really appreciate you doing this, Jammer. It's been awesome as always, and we can't wait to get this book out to you.
Yeah, I'm excited to read this new lacrosse book. Any lacrosse book is great, and especially one made by a couple beauties like yourselves. So I'm excited to get book in my hands and get reading.
And a big thank you to Iroquois Nationals captain Cody Jamison for joining us. And oh man, what can I say about Cody Jamison? He's all world, great guy, and he's done absolutely everything there is to do in this sport. A tremendous career for sure. And for me, I thought it was a funny story. When I was first getting ready to interview him, he was coaching the Six Nations Rivermen at the President's Cup Senior B Championship, and I couldn't approach him. I was too nervous. Like, this is Cody Jamison. I see him, driving around my community all the time, but when you're going up to him to talk about lacrosse, I don't know, it was easy to say I got starstruck for sure.
Yeah.
And oh man, Cody Jamison, he's a tremendous player though. One of the definitely one of the starlights of Six Nations for sure, and of the Iroquois Nationals program.
Fierce competitor.
Absolutely. He's won multiple championships, as we said before.
Multiple MVPs.
For me, there is absolutely no one better in the game than him.
Yeah, like you said, fierce competitor, and I know that firsthand. I think that my first year in the NLL, he says I cheap shotted him, but I know it was a solid cross check to the elbow, and he don't care who you are, doesn't care if you guys are teammates in the summertime. He ended up jumping me, and we ended up fighting in the NLL. So that's something I always remember about Jammer. That's for sure.
So when I started this project way back then, I thought it was a perfect project for me because I have absolutely loved the game of lacrosse from as far back as I can remember. I still remember going all over Ontario, all over BC, and even all over the States, following my cousin play professionally over his career. And I always remember my dad and my grandfather always taking me along for the ride. So, we were traveling and following the sport, ever since I was a little guy. So I fell in love with the sport early, and, I think I still feel the same about the sport today as I did back then. So as I was writing this book and as I was completing this project, you soon found how many stories are within lacrosse, right? And it's so many untold stories that have been lost because lacrosse hasn't gotten the same coverage as some of the major sports or like hockey and football. But those stories are still there, and there are a lot of tremendous athletes within this game. So I really thought this project stood out for me as something that would be fun for me to do and would also be very informational at the same time. So as I was getting more and more of these stories and realizing just how many stories there are in lacrosse, I soon found I can't possibly get to all these stories to finish them. So that's when I started thinking that I would probably need some help. So it just so happened my cousin Bomber here just had graduated from Syracuse, and tell our viewers how that went.
Yeah, I just graduated from Syracuse. You recommended me to our boss, Michelle Davis, and I remember she was calling me a couple times, and at the time, calling me and texting me. At the time, I was kind of, trying to lay low just after school. I was kind of exhausted from, the rigors of, university and finally completing my degree. And I eventually, I kind of caved and came in for a meeting, and she kind of explained to me what we wanted to do with this project. And, it really sparked my interest for sure. I mean, for me, growing up, reading and schooling was never my strong suit. So I've never been a big reader. So when she talked about how this is a literacy program to help, people, especially adults, find a book that they will really find interested in, to want to learn to read, that really hit home for me, because I wanted to, if I had something like that when I was, growing up, and maybe I would have read more books. I would have fell more in love with, reading, and it maybe would have helped me in the long run. So that was something that I wanted to do. And as a Haudenosaunee lacrosse athlete, you're always trying to, give back to the game. It's given me so much in this life, and it's taken me places I never thought I'd go. And that's why I felt this is one way that I would be able to, kind of give back and help, do my kind of part. And then, lastly, it was something that I'd be able to grow the game. I think that, being in a book market, it kind of hits a different type of audience, and hopefully that can help, grow our game a little more, and kind of show these unique stories that people have. And during those meetings I had with our boss, and she kind of talked about the things, and I had a million ideas come straight to my head, I knew immediately that this is something I wanted to pursue, and I was happy to join. And and I'm so glad that I did. And it's pretty crazy to see how far we've come in that short amount of time.
It is crazy. It's I always think back to that little 50-page booklet and thinking just how much we would have missed if we didn't, go for it and go all in like we have been.
I think we've added in 50 pages since editing started, and so that's just a testament to see how big this book and how long it's taken, for sure.
And I think it's a testament just how big the lacrosse community is itself, right?
It sure is. I mean, I'm sure there's, we could write a whole nother book with the amount of stories we miss. So, we definitely did our best to try and get the ones that, we thought would, capture the audience, and, hopefully we did that.
So next, I want to talk about, the game of lacrosse as a vehicle for better things. When you think about lacrosse nowadays, there isn't just players, there isn't just coaches, but there's people, advertising lacrosse, marketing lacrosse, doing these different things. Like there's trainers, there's nutritionists now. So like the game can take you a long way, and the game can be utilized to take you places you would never really dream of, right? For me personally, I didn't go to school to play lacrosse or anything, but going to school for me was a big reason, or lacrosse, was a big reason for me going to school, because for me, my dream is to do advertising, doing marketing, doing the digital media stuff, and the business side of lacrosse. And I enjoy lacrosse so much as a game that I can only dream of working in it full time.
Yeah, and I think the thing about this game, and everyone has their own story. It takes them to different places, whatever the case may be. And I know one of the bigger themes, within our book was the intellectual side, dealing with lacrosse scholarships and things like that. One specific story I remember is Tyson Bomberry, who was able to use the game of lacrosse to help him get an education. He talks about how lacrosse kept him motivated and kind of accountable to help him finish his schoolwork, and he felt that those are things that he might not have been able to do without lacrosse. Mm-hmm. So right there you see lacrosse having an impact outside of the game on someone's personality and how they do things. So that's really great to see. And another story we looked at was the Travis Braveheart, a kid from somewhere. Mm-hmm. He talks about how he's a Oglala Sioux from South Dakota. No one in the world, would think that people or someone from South Dakota would be able to come out of there and to be able to play Division III, NCAA lacrosse. But he has. He's really fallen in love with the game. The tribes out there and the nations out there, they do have their own traditional version of the lacrosse game, and I think that's important for us to say that there's not just lacrosse or Akhwatsirehkó. There's other versions of this game that other nations have had in the past, and it's important for us to recognize that. And I think that gets lost because lacrosse is the bigger one that most people know, but he had skills that I think it's the stick game they call it, and it's they really involves the stick work. And before I interviewed Travis, I had a previous relationship with him where I went down to South Dakota and ran some camps, and he was a kid that really stuck out and really fell in love with the game, and he really wanted to continue down that path, and he felt that the guys that came with me were kind of mentors to him, and then kind of allowed him to kind of see what we did and how we did things so that he could use the same things to go to school. And I couldn't be more proud of Travis and being a mentor to those kids in South Dakota and kind of giving them a vehicle to show them that it's possible to gain an education for kids like that. I think they're kind of looked upon as an afterthought really. Mm-hmm. And for him to go out and prove that that thing is possible for their youth is huge, and I think that's really inspiring.
Mm-hmm. Besides the intellectual scholarship behind the game, there's also other ways that the players have used lacrosse kind of as a vehicle to live better lives. There's also this notion of the emotional well-being that's kind of risen in our book, and what we mean by that is somebody who's used lacrosse to kind of get out of a bad time in their life, used it to
uplift their communities,
uplift their spirit. And for me, I had the pleasure of writing about Kurt Steyers. And Kurt Steyers, a lot of people know him within the lacrosse community now. He's well known, especially being the owner of the Halifax Thunderbirds, and recently was the general manager of the Iroquois Nationals indoor team. And then Kurt, what can I say about Kurt? I think Kurt's story is one of the best in the book for me, because somebody like me who hasn't played at the top level still has this tremendous respect and tremendous
love for the game.
Love for the game, exactly. And the things he does to grow the game, the things he does for the people within our own Six Nations community. I think his story is one of the just tremendous.
Yeah, and I think the one thing to note about that is, when, I can't remember when the exact date was, when Kurt Steyers and Dalby Paula Sr. built the ILA. I think that's, a noteworthy time where, I think Six Nations lacrosse really started to take off, being in an all lacrosse facility that's open all year round, open to the public. And I think that's something that, our youth and, our teams have really taken advantage of and have been able to use that to, get to the next level and take our teams even higher. So that's something that, I think gets overlooked sometimes, and, thank goodness for Kurt, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And another one that really sticks out to me is an article that you were able to do. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Oriana, from, Uganda lacrosse, in Africa, and that's just something that it's completely, to me, thinking about it, is kind of crazy. I would never expected that our game be reached that far, and I'm so happy that we took that trip out to Peterborough that day to kind of go watch the World Under-19 Women's Lacrosse Championships in Peterborough, and we found Patrick Oriana. He kind of came up to us, approached us, and we kind of asked him if we'd be able to do an interview with him, and he was so happy that we wanted to take the time to talk to him and let him share his story, and I'm so happy that we did. I think that, for me, I think that's one of the more special ones that stuck out. And I remember, us after that interview just sitting there in awe. We couldn't believe, the things that he was saying and how happy and how, just how grateful he was for this game. It was just it was very heartwarming. Honestly, it was kind of emotional, and I think that's something that really sticks out to me, and I'm so happy that we were able to capture that.
Mm. And then again, we're talking about emotional well-being. You can't go without talking about Connor Wilson. Connor Wilson's one of the heads of the Lacrosse All-Stars. It's a website based in lacrosse media, and it's all about growing the game. But Connor's taken his time to go out and start a tournament every, I think it's October, and it's called the Lacrosse All-Stars North American Invitational. And if this isn't one of the biggest lacrosse events in North America right now, what Connor did was he took the model used at the Ales Hrabeski tournament in Prague, and that model is all about small games, and it's more about community building than actually being competitive. So there's 15-minute, 20-minute games, and it's all about meeting people. It's all about talking to people, and I think creating that community uplifts a lot of people within the lacrosse community, because not only do you get to go play lacrosse with your friends, you also get to play lacrosse against guys you wouldn't normally get to play, especially professionals like Brendan here. So it's an awesome experience, and for Connor to go out and do that, and I know he puts in a lot of hard work every single year trying to put that on, and especially for the lacrosse community. The tournament's expanded now, where their youth teams are starting to come, and there's days dedicated to youth program. So for me, Connor's somebody who really used lacrosse as a vehicle to uplift people's well-being, and I think that's definitely got to be mentioned here.
For sure, I think it's definitely one of the premier tournaments, amateur tournaments, I should say. I think it's one that everyone looks forward to every single year. It's grown so big, and you get teams from all over the place. You get people that are just trying lacrosse, and you also get some pros that come back and play, and it's just a great time. And it's a perfect example of the game of lacrosse. Everyone's having fun, but they're also competing, like wearing their heart on their sleeve, and that's what our game is. And even if they're for fun, guys are going 100 miles an hour, doing everything they can to win, and that's really awesome to see.
Mm-hmm. And then as we move on, within our articles, one that certainly shouldn't be forgotten is the spirituality within the game, and I think we both know that quite well, especially being from Six Nations and being very in touch with our Haudenosaunee culture. Spirituality is something that stands out for me, especially that's something that you're taught right from the beginning when you first learn about the game. Right, in our culture, the stick, it comes from our Mother Earth, and then their sticks are given to the children when they're born, and it's supposed to be their first best friend.
Yeah, I think that's the first lesson I learned in this game, and it was the stick, the traditional stick.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't always play with the traditional stick, but I always knew that traditional values and meaning behind it. That stick was a living being. Mm-hmm. It has that power. Everything within that stick, came from something that was living, and that's important to kind of recognize that, you're kind of giving this stick life after its life, and you do everything you can to protect that stick and take care of it, because that stick will take care of you. And I still follow that to this day. Like I said, obviously we can't use the traditional wooden stick, but I still carry those same values in my stick. I take care of my stick the best I can. I'm always fixing it, whenever it needs, taking care of it, sleeping with it sometimes, and those are the things that I still believe that if I take care of my stick, it'll take care of me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when we're talking about spirituality, one article that really stands out is from Darius Kilgore. And for those of you who don't know Darius, Darius is one of the best players to ever play the game. He's from the Tuscarora Reservation near Niagara Falls, and this guy's won numerous championships and was an all-out competitor during his time. And with Darius, Darius talks about the spirituality within the game, it being a warrior sport, and him seeing it as that throughout his career within him. And he had this competitive edge to him where he wanted to be the best at the game. He wanted to work hard for everything that he got, and it really shows in his mentality that he showed in the game, where the results came. He won numerous championships, won numerous MVP titles, and it's sad that his career was cut short, but the things he was able to do in that game, and then the things he still does in that game, he still takes his time to coach the young kids. He still takes his time to teach those kids those lessons that he was able to learn during his playing time.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, one of the best lacrosse players to ever play, turned into one of the best lacrosse coaches ever. So, just to be able to kind of give back and stay involved with the game is huge. And, those things are, priceless, especially for those kids that are able to learn from such a great pro. You can only imagine how great those players will be coming up.
Mm-hmm. Our next guest is a personal friend of ours and comes from the Six Nations of the Grand River Territory. He is a two-time President's Cup champion with the Six Nations Rivermen, winning the President's Cup MVP in 2019. He is a two-time JUCO All-American at Onondaga, as well as a two-time JUCO National Champion with the Lazars before joining Syracuse, where he graduated in 2016.
He's also currently a member of the Halifax Thunderbirds NLL, and he's also a member of the Iroquois Nationals box and field lacrosse program. His name is Warren Hill.
Warren, how's it going?
Oh, not so bad. How about you?
Great, man. We're good. It's good to hear from you. So, what have you been up to since we last talked?
Just like everybody else, just been hanging out home with the fam, getting some work done. Not gonna lie, it was kind of nice to have a break, but definitely itching to get back out there and start playing again.
since we last talked, what have you been up to?
Not a whole lot. Got the young boy now. He's just turned 1 in June, so he's keeping us pretty busy. Other than that, just kind of same old, same old.
And what have you been doing to keep in the rhythm during the off season?
Definitely trying to keep the stick in my hands as much as possible. Fortunate enough to have a brick wall behind my house. Able to get out there at least once a week. Just doing some home workouts as everyone knows, like the gym's not open, so trying to stay active that way. But yeah, just kind of enjoying time, working on my golf game.
In your article with us, you talk about your career at Onondaga Community College and Syracuse University. Can you tell us a little bit more about your decision to pursue those, academic institutions?
Well, I think it just all comes back to when I was younger. Like, they probably, like other guys have probably mentioned before, seeing Sid, Jammer. I had my uncle Cam play college lacrosse, so that's been a goal of mine since I was probably about 12, 13 years old when we found out we could go to school and play lacrosse, right? So going into high school, had that goal in mind, and to obviously kind of like a lot of our native youth school didn't come easy to me, had to work at it, and so it was a really easy decision to go and pick up my grades and go join the team at OCC. Had a lot of friends and the coaches were awesome. It was a really good family environment, so that choice was definitely easy. Really thankful for it. And the same thing with moving on to Syracuse was definitely an easy choice, hopping and skipping a jump from home, and great program, and it's just awesome.
You'll be suiting up for the Iroquois Nationals at the upcoming World Games in Birmingham, Alabama in 2022. Can you tell me a little bit about what that means for the Iroquois Nationals program and to you personally?
I think it's just a big step in the right direction. Obviously, we had to jump through some hoops and hurdles to get there, but it just speaks volumes to who we are as a people, as an organization, and the way things are going, just persevering and getting us there. So it's awesome, and it'll be an honor if I can be a part of that team competing down there. And for me, definitely mentioned before, having a little one, it definitely puts things in perspective, and I'd hope for him one day to be able to play in those same games.
With Ireland Lacrosse stepping down and making way for the Iroquois Nationals, it kind of speaks to the medicine within our game, that has been apparent in our book. Can you speak a little bit more about the medicine game and what that kind of means to you?
Well, first and foremost, hats off to Ireland for doing that. They didn't have to, but it's great on them for doing that, and they definitely got a friend of ours now. And speaking of to the medicine game, lacrosse, it's obviously a small community and compared to the other large sports, right? So definitely it speaks volumes to who we are and what this game brings to people's lives. Joy, happiness, friendships, all of that. Just from my own experience, the things I remember most, even especially going to these things, is not the wins and losses, the scores. It's the friendships made there, the memories, the time spent with teammates, getting to meet other new people that play on other teams like that. Those friendships and memories are something that I take with me more than the actual scores or how we do in the tournaments.
Oh, that's awesome, and we really appreciate you doing this today, Warren. Best of luck in your upcoming season in Halifax, and we really hope to see you back on the floor real soon.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Warren. It's always great to talk to you, man. Oh, man, what can I say about Warren? Warren's one of my closest friends in this life, and I've known him ever since we played in paperweight together. I've gotten to watch his career unfold pretty closely, and I'm always really proud of the way he presents himself on and off the floor. He's a really good guy and one of the nicest guys you can meet.
Yeah, he's one of a kind for sure. War is a absolute beauty. Not much more you can really say about him, and I mean, he's definitely been a backbone for, I think, most of my career in the teams I played with, coming up to the Arrows and the Iroquois Nationals, and especially the field game. I think he's been, he's definitely been our top goalie we've ever had, and definitely given him a chance. And and every single game he played, playing against some of the best players, taking 110-mile-an-hour shots, from 10 yards away is pretty scary. And Warren steps to the plate every single time. He equals up to the task.
Yeah, like I said before, like one of the nicest guys. If you ever get the chance to meet him, definitely strike up a conversation on lacrosse, and this guy will talk your ear off. I know we talk quite often about just lacrosse in general, where it's going, and like any little thing about the game. Warren's definitely interested in it.
He sure is, and he's so educated in the game, especially the long history within his family, and he definitely carries on that legacy for sure.
Definitely. Our next guest comes from the Six Nations of the Grand River Territory. He's a good friend of ours. He's a stout defender with a long resume of winning. He was a 2012 Founders Cup champion with the Six Nations Rebels. He was a 2014 Under Armour All-American at Avon Old Farms. He was a 3-time Minto Cup champion with the Six Nations Arrows in 2014, 15, and 17, captaining the way in 17. He was drafted in the 2019 NLL draft 10th overall by the New York Riptide, and recently was traded to San Diego.
And he's a recent graduate from Syracuse University, and like you said, he'll be joining San Diego with a couple familiar faces. He's also a member of both the box and field Iroquois Nationals lacrosse programs. And welcome, Tyson.
Tyson, how's it going?
Things have been good. Just been staying busy, trying to play as much lacrosse as I can, trying to stay busy. Definitely crazy times kind of going on with COVID and everything, but starting a new job and stuff, so just keeping busy with that, and excited for the future.
What have you been up to? I know there's been a recent trade, involving you in the NLL.
Yeah, I just was this past summer here. I was traded to the San Diego Seals from the New York Riptide. I'm really excited to be joining a longtime friend and former teammate Austin Stotts, but also getting to play for my coaches from the Six Nations Arrows again is definitely going to be a great experience again. I love the coaches that we had. We had a great kind of chemistry with them in Six Nations in 2015 through 2017 there. So I kind of know what to expect going up there, and I'm really excited to get on the floor with some new teammates and some new faces.
So what have you been doing to stay in the rhythm during this extended off season?
Well, to keep in the rhythm for sure, I actually just been running a lot. I've been hitting the weights, cleaning up my diet, just trying to become like a better lacrosse player, but ultimately just like a better person as well. I've been reading a lot, reading lots of books, been trying to do my exercise, eating healthy, just kind of trying to make myself the best self that I can be, so that I can kind of in all aspects of my life, physical, mental, and like spiritually as well.
In your article, you talked about your time at Avon Old Farms and Syracuse University as part of your education. Can you touch a little bit more about why that was so important to you?
So the main thing for me was academically. I was always done really well in school. My parents always pushed me from a very young age to always do my best academically. So I guess it's kind of always been like not necessarily instinctual, but always been kind of pushed on me that I have to do the best that I can do in my academics, just as I would in sports or anything. So it always that part's always stuck with me, even from like my high school, even into college. But mainly the reason I chose to go to Avon Old Farms, to go to a preparatory school, is mainly for recruiting reasons, recruiting purposes. I was getting looks and stuff for certain colleges and stuff, but if I could reclassify and do another year of high school at an institution like Avon Old Farms, where you play against some of the best competition day in, day out, but also against the other teams, it just kind of boosted me for the recruiting looks that I had and allowed me to attend Syracuse University, which is where I wanted to go in the end. So So Syracuse, I've always tried to, just like I did throughout school throughout my whole life, is just try to push myself as hard as I can and just do the best that I can do academically, as the same as I would on the field or off the field. So I just tried to continue to strive for greatness, and came through, and I was able to graduate with a degree and graduate with honors, and graduate cum laude at Syracuse University.
You'll be taking part in the upcoming World Games in Birmingham, Alabama in 2022. Just want to touch on what that means to you personally.
So it's definitely a big big thing for the Haudenosaunee people as a whole, I believe. Just because we're going to be able to be recognized on a world stage for the skill and talent that we have as lacrosse players, but also athletes. I just want to give a special thanks out to Team Ireland for letting go of their spots so that we can go and be able to attend these games, and I think that's such a huge thing and shows that the lacrosse community really does appreciate and know the roots of the game, and that's huge for us, and a huge nyama to them for allowing us to be able to compete in their place. It's going to be huge for our people, and I hope that we can provide the best team possible so that we can win and do the best for our team and represent the sport and our people in the best way possible.
Thanks for doing this, Tice. We want to wish you luck with your new career and also in your new home in San Diego with your new team.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me again today.
Thanks, Tyson. Oh man, Tyson Bomberry, what can I say about him? What a terrific, what a prime example of a role model for our community here at Six Nations. Somebody who, excels at both the athletic side and the academic side, and then, we know him personally, so we could say that that carries on to everything he does within his life too, right? You always see him putting in his best effort in everything that he does, whether it's on the field or within our community as well.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure, being teammates with him, pretty much all our lives through junior into college, and with the Iroquois Nationals, and I've seen it firsthand. The commitment he puts to his craft, and everything that he does outside, schoolwork, work, whatever the case may be, he's putting 110% in, and he's completely dialed the entire time. And I think that as someone who growing up struggled with schooling and academics, and I kind of thought, didn't know if I would be able to get through it, just because it just wasn't a thing. I think that kids really put to the forefront, but for kids to see someone like Tyson, who has excelled and got very good grades and come from a great school like Syracuse University, it's very good for them to see that they can also achieve those goals and be someone like Tyson and use school to uplift their lives and help them in their career and going forward.
Mm-hmm. So the next thing I want to talk about is the Iroquois Nationals program. If you're part of the lacrosse community, you definitely know who the Iroquois Nationals are. But for those of you who don't, the Iroquois Nationals are the only team comprised of all Indigenous players who compete at the international level as their own sovereign nation. And I think it's important we talk about the Iroquois Nationals, especially in regards to our book, because of all the players who have played for our national team and who all have differentiating stories within their experiences within that national team. But the Iroquois Nationals were started in 1983 by the Haudenosaunee Grand Council, and they were assembled to play as an exhibition team against NCAA teams before finally competing for their very first World Championship in 1986. And so I think it's important we cover the Iroquois Nationals, like I said, because of their differentiating stories, but also because of current events happening with the World Games coming up in Birmingham, Alabama in 2022. And for those of you who don't know, the World Games, not to be confused with the World Championships held by the FIL every 4 years, is going to be used as Olympic trial for lacrosse to possibly become an Olympic sport in the future. As number 3 in the world, the Iroquois Nationals were surprisingly left off the initial list. I wanted to ask you, Bombs, as a current member of the team, how do you feel about getting left off the list, and what do you think of the support that we kind of received through the social movement?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely a slap in the face to our people and to the Iroquois Nationals organization. I think that, if for people that want to take lacrosse to the next level, which I guess that would be the Olympics, without having us there, it wouldn't be growing the game. There's just no question about it. And we saw from the support that we received on social media, the movement that was created to help us, get to that level of, recognition to kind of, push the committee to the one side and finally allow us. I mean, their first criteria was you had to finish in the top 8 in the last World Championships, which we did. We certainly qualified. We traveled under our own passports, our own flag. So, it was, for us, it was a no-brainer that we should have been there, and there wasn't a lot that, going into that we didn't think that we didn't have a chance. And I think that, for them to kind of leave us off like that and to try and push ahead without us, it kind of showed a lot, what their motives are and that kind of thing. But, with the support we received, it was they really didn't have a choice at that point. And the thing that really, broke us through was Ireland Lacrosse kind of giving up their spot in the World Games to, allow us to be there. And that's kind of, where we stand today. We're lucky to be in there. And the Ireland Lacrosse really forced their hand and kind of, didn't really give them a choice. Now they have to let us in just to fill that last spot. And, we're extremely thankful for the Ireland Lacrosse and everything they've done. And, as Haudenosaunee people, we want, this game is for everyone. We want to share that with everyone, and we never expected anyone to, do anything like that for us. But, it's something that, there's nothing really we can do to show the level of gratitude that we feel towards them.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really telling as well of the lacrosse community, the support it shows for one another, and I think that's a theme that really arises in our book a lot. We said before, like, the differing experiences people have had within the national program, and that goes back to our 3 themes we also talked about in our book. And those themes arise especially when we talk about the Iroquois Nationals program, because it means so much to not only Indigenous players, but I think the lacrosse community as a whole, and I think that really shows.
Yeah, and I think it represents more than just the Haudenosaunee. It represents Haudenosaunee, or Indigenous people, across the world. There's Indigenous nations, throughout the world that have been also colonized, and I think that's the big thing when we go to these tournaments. We have the New Zealand, the Peru, and those countries who really they see us as motivation, because they're in the same position as us. They were colonized by those countries and still deal with the effects today, and they kind of see us as, like I said, motivation, and they want to kind of emulate us and try to be like us and do the things that we have done to get there.
Mm-hmm. Next, we're going to be talking about another one of these players that has used lacrosse as a vehicle, both academically and both as a spiritual guide. She's currently attending Virginia Tech University and played for the Haudenosaunee national team as an exceptional player in 2007 before playing for the U19 team at the 2019 Women's World Cup and helped captaining that team as well. She's a fantastic role model for Indigenous women everywhere, and definitely somebody I've come to respect over this last year that I've known her. Please welcome Jayson Lazar. Jayson, how's it going?
I've been pretty good.
Quite some time since we last talked, Jayson. What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? So the last time we spoke was around the end of January or February, I believe, and this was around the time where I was in the middle or the start of my season, and we got a few games in, and then right before COVID hit, I went to North Carolina where we played Syracuse, and then we flew to Boston, and then we drove down to Rhode Island to play Brown, and then this was on a Wednesday, and then we were going to play Boston College on Saturday. But then it was mandatory for all of us to go home, so we headed home. And this was around like March 18th, around that time. And honestly, it's been a really crazy time. And after that, I went home. I was home for a few days because I planned to go home anyways because I was going to surprise my sister at her game when she was going to play UAlbany at Albany. And when that kind of didn't work out, I ended up going home. And then a few days later, I drove back down to Virginia Tech to grab all my things, and then I went back to Akhwatsirehkó. And while I was home, I think a lot of the time was I trained a lot with my sisters. My sisters and I, we did the Shake School Lacrosse a quarantine challenge, and that was really cool because I think it gave me a whole new foundation to how I see the offense, the footwork, the agility, especially the shooting. Just it was really really cool. And we would be assigned a quarantine challenge every 3 to 4 days, and we would learn the challenge, and then you would submit your videos to Shake School Lacrosse, and then they would critique what you were doing, and then you would just go from there. So it was really fun, and that's what we did. Well, we started training maybe 2 weeks after my sister and I got home, and we were home with our families, and I think it was really important for us to come together again because it was a time where there was a lot of things crazy that was going on in the world, and I think to be home with my family was it was really awesome because I haven't been home for that long in probably 5 years, and to be able to be home was really awesome, and I got to be around my family a lot. And I didn't really get to see much of my extended family, but I think to see my family for such a long time was really it was really great, and I was really glad to see my sisters and to kind of just regain that love for the game, especially with my family being there. So that was really cool.
Fresh off your Palo Continental win, what have you been doing during these times to stay in game mode?
So coming off the Palo win, same thing is so since we weren't allowed to have big practices at home, we invited 10 or less players from Akhwatsirehkó to come train at the field that we have around near my house. So where I live in Akhwatsirehkó, it's a place where it's right on the river, and we have land. We share land with our neighbor. So they actually they cleared out the field, and then they rolled it down. So now we're able to play on the field. So we would actually go outside and train every day, and I think it was really cool because we'd have the mornings to. So since I wasn't in school, we did a big thing of cleaning up the house. We redid the road. We painted our shed. We did a lot of things that we normally wouldn't do on a daily basis. And we would do that in the mornings, and then in the afternoons and the evenings we would do training. And I think that's what we did the whole summer. I mean, there would be a few days we would take off, but majority of the summer we were always doing something. We were always being active, and I think it was really cool because it was so accessible. We were right there, and it wasn't we were driving somewhere, and we were quarantined with the people that we were practicing with every day. So that was really cool. And so that's what I've been doing every day. When things started to open up again, we started to invite a little bit more people, but still keeping it to limited numbers. But it was really cool, and I feel we got a lot of reps in because we had less people, and we had a lot of balls, we had a lot of cones, so we were able to do a lot throughout the summer and all throughout quarantine.
We've been talking a lot about the Iroquois Nationals program in regards to the Olympic Games and their inclusion at the World Games. Why do you think it's important that the Haudenosaunee gain international recognition, and what does it mean to you to be playing at these games?
So I think it's really important for our Haudenosaunee people to receive the international recognition because this is our game and it originated from our people. And I think that when that was almost like a possibility that we wouldn't, it just made me really sad because I feel like this is a game that's meant to be shared. And like when I was younger and I was discouraged to play because obviously our women weren't really like weren't allowed to play, and like we were kind of like going against our own people to be able to play. So I think that like through that it just made me like really upset because I just felt like we weren't really being respected, and it's like our game was being taken away from us. And I feel like it's really important for us to get this recognition because obviously it's our game and it comes from the root of who we are, like it's in our blood. And I feel like if we weren't being represented at the Olympic Games, or like if Iroquois Nationals weren't going to be represented, or Haudenosaunee Nationals weren't going to be represented, it didn't seem like it made any sense for it to happen if we were going to be a part of it, you know. So that's just what I think. And I think like moving forward it's really important for us to be a part of this, you know, like, and yeah.
We've talked about the medicine game and also our support of the Haudenosaunee women's team. You know, as a Haudenosaunee woman, can you tell us the importance of lacrosse in your career and why you want to inspire more to play in the coming generation?
So one of the things that I think that's really important with like our women picking up lacrosse sticks and starting to play lacrosse is, like, from my personal experience, I feel like lacrosse has given me so much purpose, and honestly that's just like an understatement. I feel like when I talk about it, I don't realize like how much lacrosse to me is such a big deal because it's something that like I just do every day. It's something that like I think about, and it's like the way that I connect with others. Like especially like being in multiple environments, like being able to talk about the game and being able to talk about like it's like a core value that I hold within myself, and to be able to explain that to people is really important. And I feel like if I didn't have this outlet, like to be able to play lacrosse and to be able to share this game, like I don't think I'd really be the person that I am today. Like I wouldn't be able to confidently talk to people like how I want to. And when I say that is lacrosse has given me like my own voice. It's given me the ability to speak up for myself, and it's given me the ability to connect with others. You know, like when I meet like a non-native, I'm able to explain like what the medicine game is, and I understand that the women's game is different from the men's game, and I explain why. And for me, it just really, you know, it's just a part of my daily life. It's something that I've always been working towards, and I don't really have like an end goal. Like I don't really have a plan. I think that everything that I've done up until this point has just been like with my best intuition, and especially with my family behind me. And I think like one of the things is that like every time I go home and like I see like the girls that I work with and I see my family, like the girls that I practice with and that I coach, I think it's like it reminds me of like who I'm working towards, and it's obviously it's the people rising after me. And so I always want to be like that outlet and that role model to them, because I feel like I've always had like there was always someone that I looked up to, but they were from another res, or if it was just someone from like a different team. Like I think I always like wanted to be that person where I could be like almost like resilient, and that kind of sounds cheesy, but I feel like when people like when you see the way that people adjust to different situations, and you see that like they have composure and they're able to adjust whatever's thrown at them, like I think those are the greatest role models. And I think that sometimes like there's some things that, you know, catch me off guard and like kind of like discourage me, but I think like realizing and looking at the big picture of like who you're working towards is really important. And I think like one of the things too is like with playing lacrosse and being like a college athlete, I think it's always good to like hold myself accountable and to try to not to cut corners and kind of like to take the easy way out, because like I noticed like if you do that, like obviously the journey to like be playing lacrosse and to be given opportunities, like those aren't always offered every day, so you always have to like sort of take care of them. And so I always want to like not take the easy way out or cut corners, because I want to give that easy path to another girl, you know, rising up. And like I want to give the path to the next person or the girl that I look down to in Akhwatsirehkó, like, you know, if it's like my younger sisters or if it's the young girls in the community. And I think like that's like one of the most important things to why I keep playing, and why I stay motivated. And yeah, I think that I always think about like the bigger picture and who I'm representing, and yeah, so.
You talk a lot about the academic side in your article. Just how do lacrosse and academics correlate? And what would you say to young Indigenous girls trying to play at a higher level?
Yeah, so school and lacrosse correlate very similar to each other because good grades and your academics are surely going to determine where you're going to go to school. It's really important to find a balance between the two because the better maintained your grades are, the more doors that will open academically and lacrosse-wise. So you have to like sort of remember that when you go to college, like you're a student athlete. And what's the first thing that comes in student athlete when you say that? Student, right? So it's always important to make sure that your academics come before lacrosse because if you're not really focused on, maintaining your grades and keeping up with your work, you're going to fall behind. And I think it's like harder to be able to come back like academically if you just sort of like stay on track the whole time. Because if you don't have good grades, you also won't be able to play like if you don't maintain a certain GPA. So it's always good to like maintain that balance. Like for me, I think it was always important. Like it wasn't really coming from my parents, like saying like, oh, you need to have this type of grade or that type of grade. Like, it was never really it wasn't anyone ever telling me like what type of grades I needed to have. It was more like I needed to show like the people around me like my own capability. I tried to hold myself accountable. I tried to make sure that I had A's and B's like all throughout high school. And yeah, there was a C once, but I think like through that, like you also have to remember that the people that are teaching you and the faculty that you interact with, like those are types of people that can also give you letters of recommendation. So it's always good to like treat people around you really good because they're your support system, and I think like through that's going to take you above and beyond. Like, yeah, like in the recruiting process, coaches are going to look at your grades but they're also going to make phone calls to try to figure out what the type of person that you are. So I think that if you're, staying on track with your grades, that's not even something that they have to second guess. Like it's almost like the next thing that they need to look into is the type of person that you are. So, lacrosse and both academics are very, they're very equal and they both need to be maintained the same. So, yeah.
Always great to talk to you, Jayson. Know you're destined for big things and are going to be a leader for our program. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Yeah.
So, when we're talking about the medicine game, I think something that really sticks out to me is that I think that medicine can be subjective to whoever's using that to create deeper meaning for themselves. I think a perfect example of that would be from my friend Frank Lawrence, and the lacrosse community knows a great deal about Frank Lawrence. He's been a referee in the Canadian Lacrosse Association for as long as I can remember, and then has recently turned his attention to the European Lacrosse Union, where he's helping to develop European lacrosse refs in both box and in field. For the World Lacrosse. Mm-hmm. And for Frank, back in 2011, I was actually playing in the game, and Frank suffered a rupture in his aortic valve. I was so happy that we were able to talk to Frank for our book because what he told me really touched me, and I think is really emphasis of that medicine within the game. And he said that after his accident that he was hospitalized for 18 days. Jesus. But Frank shared that his friend from Akhwatsirehkó had lit a fire for him and had spoken some good words to Creator for him, and that Frank said that his experience with during his stay at the hospital was very spiritual, that he could almost feel that fire burning and feel that light from that fire. I think that's very I think that's a really good example of what that medicine means, and it's not just within the game of lacrosse, but within the game and the community itself, right? So during this segment, we just wanted to share our interview with Frank and let him share his story. And then this game is called the medicine game within the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. Has this game ever had a healing effect on you in any way?
Well, that's a story, as I mentioned to you before. In 2011, I was in the middle of a lacrosse game refereeing. I was refereeing a game in Virgil Arena, and I suffered a tear in my aortic valve. I was rushed to the hospital. I was unconscious for 18 days. A good friend of mine in Akhwatsirehkó, Robert Francis, phoned my wife and told my wife that he was lighting a fire for me. And in my dreams, I saw the results of the fire. Normally, this fire is only lit for a native. Robert Francis lit it for me for the work I've done in the communities, especially Akhwatsirehkó. I've officiated at many Nations Cups, and I'm good friends with the community. Somehow, I truly believe that the lighting of the fire took me out of my coma that I was in for 18 days and helped to heal me. I thank Robert Francis for that. I thank Robert Francis, and I thank the community of Akhwatsirehkó for supporting me and my family. I believe that the game of lacrosse is truly a medicine game, and that's how it's played. That's how the small communities, the Seneca Nation, Allegheny, Tuscarora, Six Nations, Ganawagi, Akhwatsirehkó, they play the game as a medicine game.
So the next thing we want to talk about is our own personal stories within this book. And for me, I guess it started, like I said before, back in September of 2018. And like we said before, we touched on that this book wasn't supposed to be this big when we started it. And I think that had to do a lot with me and Brendan's vision, to what we thought that the book could actually be. And I think as we continued writing the book, I think what we seen is that, like we said, just how expansive the world of lacrosse is, and also a little bit about just how unexplored it is as well, with the players within this game and the stories that they have to share. For me, I think writing this book really helped me, especially as somebody who wants to go into digital media and the business side of lacrosse. Really helped my my writing level, my writing ability, how to portray a better story, and then really how to dive deeper into personal stories, how to get the best possible effect from writing those stories. What about you, Bombs? Do you have anything you grew in?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the book as a whole, interviewing people and writing the whole process. I think that for me, the main thing is it really inspired me. I know there are days I still play lacrosse, so there's days when I don't want to get up and I don't want to train, and I don't want to do this or I don't want to do that. And I think back to, stories like Patrick Oriana, when they would give anything they had, anything really in the world to be in the same position I am, or Travis Braveheart. You know, stories like that, those really hit home to me. You know, and during the interview process, you know, you'd have the next question ready, but you'd just be so speechless from their answer because they had that effect on you, and you know, it really hit home, and it hit deep. And those are the things that really, for me, that really hit home. And I know that as time went on, I grew as a writer. You know, I felt that I was able to, you know, bring the story more to life each time after each interview, and as I got more, you know, emotionally involved in the book, that, you know, it came out in my writing. And I think that that's something for me that I really grew on, and I know that I can take to the next level and whatever else I want to do further from this. And I think that, you know, this has just been the most amazing experience for me, and I, you know, definitely very grateful for it.
Mm-hmm. And so Akhwatsirehkó, I guess we'll talk a little bit about how that came about. So me and Brendan, we grew up in an immersion program learning the Mohawk language with some Cayuga sprinkled in as well. But when we were younger, when we were learning our languages, we had a lot of like root-based words and adding our prefixes and our proper, you know, proper pronouns. So one word that really stuck with me from a teacher, her name was Ima Johnson. That really stood out to me when I was in elementary school was this word Akhwatsirehkó, and in the Mohawk language that means like my family. And then that really sticks out to me when I'm talking about lacrosse, because everybody I've ever played with and people I see at the arena, I really do see them as, you know, family members. The Goa is kind of an emphasis on like size of like a big or of something great. So we just kind of put the Goa at the end of that for our own artistic touch, right? Like, you know, it's not a literal meaning of what my big family is, but it's kind of it's
ours.
Yeah, it's ours.
And I think that, you know, I think we went back and forth between things. Like we tried to, you know, try to make it as perfect as possible, the name, and we just, you know, from our understanding and what we knew from when we were growing up, you know, it was always that Akhwatsirehkó kept coming back, and that just seemed right for us. And I think that was, you know, the sign that, you know, that's what it was. And I think as, you know, as time's gone on, even after we finished the book, you see, you know, that Akhwatsirehkó come out all the time, specifically when, you know, the Iroquois Nationals were left out. You know, that was a huge example of Akhwatsirehkó. You know, people around the world coming together for a common cause, a common love for the game, and, you know, really pushing the Iroquois Nationals to that next level to, you know, get that exposure and, you know, that kind of momentum to help them get into the World Games.
And I think that, like you said, I think that I really think that emphasizes the my big family with just how much the Iroquois Nationals program means not only to us as Indigenous people, but to the lacrosse community as a whole. And I think like I think that coming out, I think that really showcases just how intertwined our community is.
And going off that, I think one thing that sticks out to me is, you know, when we travel up to Peterborough and we talk to, you know, Johnny Davis and Bobby Allen and all those absolute legends from Peterborough, Ontario, you know, Six Nations in Peterborough, we know they don't have the best relationship, and, you know, to go up there, you know, I was a little nervous at first, and to be honest, and I didn't know what was going to come out, what was going to be said, and that kind of thing. But, you know, I really learned a lot from, you know, those guys, and we, like I said, we came together on common stories, and we just talked lacrosse for 3 hours, and it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, and that's something I'll never forget.
Our last guest joins us from St. Catharines, Ontario, where he is completing his master's at Brock University. He's from Halifax, Nova Scotia. and just recently completed his first season in the National Lacrosse League, being selected 20th overall by the Philadelphia Wings. I had the chance to meet this guy during my time at Brock, and what can I say about him, man? Like, what a tremendous player, what a tremendous athlete, and a great leader, definitely. His leadership skills are definitely unmatched, and definitely have taken, like, you know, a lot of players at that school a long way.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had the chance to meet him yet, and hopefully I do, just based on his story. You know, it's somebody that I want to meet for sure, and it's just so cool to see, you know, lacrosse, you know, get to that big time level in NLL from, you know, it's not a traditional, I guess you could kind of say, hotbed like Nova Scotia, but, you know, it's really cool to see that, you know, the game is growing so much that, you know, he's made it to NLL, and hopefully that continues to grow, and for the youth out there, and they kind of see that his path and see that it's possible, and there is a career in lacrosse, and, you know, it's kind of really awesome to see.
Mm-hmm. So, hey, Pacer, how you doing?
Hey, Brenner, thanks for the intro there.
So how are things? How's school going?
Good, man. Just starting my first year of my Master's of Applied Health Science at Brock University. I graduated last year. My undergrad was medical science, so continuing on that path. So it's going good right now. School's online, but we're making it work.
You recently just finished up your first year of NLL lacrosse. Can you tell us what you've been up to since then?
I finished out my junior A career with the St. Catharines Athletics. Great organization. I was really fortunate to play for a coach like Steve Toll and Ian Rubel there, and I was selected 20th overall to the Philadelphia Wings by Paul Day, so that was a great honor, and I played 13 games in my first season in the NLL before COVID stopped, and we were having a good run there, so it was disappointing to end, but it was awesome experience, and just felt good to live out my dream of playing in the NLL and make that step.
I think a lot of our readers are going to be surprised to hear that a kid from Halifax has made it so far in the game. Can you tell us a little about your lacrosse career in Nova Scotia?
Yeah, I grew up playing in Halifax until I was in my second year of junior, and then I made the switch to come play junior A and go to Brock. And, you know, playing lacrosse in Nova Scotia, pretty much guys have to make that sacrifice and come to Ontario if we want to play at the highest level, which is what I always wanted to do. I wanted to challenge myself and surround myself with the best players, so that's what I did. But now that we have Halifax has a team in the NLL, they just had their inaugural season. We're seeing the game grow exponentially out there. We had a guy, Brian Huey, signed to try out with Halifax last season, made it down to the last cut. This year, a guy, Brett Draper, Nova Scotia guy, was drafted by Halifax. So it's great to see guys are starting to make that jump, and it feels really good to be a trailblazer for Nova Scotia, and I want to just give back to the game, especially out there.
Awesome. I have a couple more questions about, growing up on the East Coast. Can you tell us a little bit more about, how you kind of got better at lacrosse in a community such as, Halifax, and, how you were able to make that work?
Yeah, I know personally for me, I always competed at nationals, and I knew that even though I might have been one of the better kids in Nova Scotia, that there was another level out there. And I think a lot of guys that play lacrosse would relate to this. It's just the love and the passion you have for the game. It's easy to put that work in the gym or on the wall to improve your game. That lacrosse is a game that if you want to get better at it, you can. And now with the Thunderbirds in Halifax, we're exposed to the highest level, and the way the game's played at the highest level with the highest level of coaching. So there's really no reason for these kids not to try and make it to the NLL, and I'm really excited for kids growing up that they'll have a team there to look up to, and that dream is one step closer.
So obviously the season got cut due to the circumstances, but nothing ever seems to keep you down. What do you have planned for the future?
Yeah, so obviously disappointing that COVID ended the regular season and we didn't get to finish out and make a playoff run there, but it allowed me to go home for the summer and spend 5 months at home in Nova Scotia, which I'm really grateful for, as I've been away for the past 4 years chasing my dream playing lacrosse, and now I'm back here and just in the gym hard. You know, we got a good group of guys at Brock that we're training with all the time, so we're keeping the sticks going. And you know, we made a few big acquisitions in Philly this season, so I'm really looking forward to the season and whatever kind of season we have, and I just want to be ready to go and exceed expectations.
Thanks a lot, Alex, for joining us. Hey, man, what can I say about this guy? You know, Nova Scotia, especially growing up, you know, wasn't really the biggest of lacrosse hotbeds, you know, that it's becoming today, especially with like Alex and, you know, the other players that are coming from Nova Scotia and from Eastern Canada that, you know, starting to take on the Division 1, 2, and 3s of the United States, and even making their way to the Kufla leagues in Canada here. But, you know, with the introduction of the Halifax Thunderbirds, I really think like lacrosse is set to grow in Nova Scotia, and I think that's something that Pace really gets by in his article as well.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I haven't had a chance to play against the Halifax Thunderbird in Halifax, but, you know, from what I've seen on TV, you know, they sell out almost every game, and, you know, they've really taken the city by storm, and you can only imagine, you know, what that's going to do to the youth programs. You know, I'm sure, you know, registration will skyrocket just, you know, from the Halifax Thunderbirds being there, and, you know, going off Pace. You know, like I said before, I haven't had a chance to meet him, but, you know, I've played against him a few times, you know, in the NLL, and he's a tough-nosed player who, you know, plays the game the right way, and is someone, you know, who is pretty hard to play against, and it's really, you know, cool to see someone from the East Coast like that having, you know, a successful start to their career, and he's definitely looking for, you know, a long, successful career in the NLL.
Mm. You know, we've been in lacrosse quite a long time, yeah, like our whole lives, yeah, exactly. And you know, I think we've continued to love this game, and I think our passion for this game, you know, continues to grow, like even now. And you know, I have a lot of stories in the game that, you know, that come to my mind when I think of you know, my time in lacrosse, and I'm sure you do too. Do you have any favorite memories in the game?
Yeah, I have so many. It's tough to kind of pick one. You know, I just like to think, like, you know, my family's entire like existence feels like is like about lacrosse. You know, in summertime it's like, all right, who plays tonight? Who plays Saturday? Who plays Friday? All right, we're gonna go there. They play in Whitby. Okay, we'll be there. You know, and or, you know, our vacations were centered around, if, you know, the Iroquois Nationals were going to BC, that's a vacation for my family kind of thing. You know, everything is kind of about lacrosse, and I think that, you know, it's something so special that, you know, then those kind of things create so many memories. And I think that, you know, one of the, I guess, the more recent ones for me would be getting drafted into the National Lacrosse League. I think that was something that, you know, I had been looking forward to a long time, going through school and seeing a lot of my friends go through the same process, and for it to finally be my day was something so special. And of course, you know, I had my whole family there who traveled, you know, to Philadelphia to share that experience with me, and it was awesome and something I'll never forget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then for me, I guess, I always think about this as one of the biggest moments for me in lacrosse was in 2007, I believe the World Lacrosse Championships were being played in London, Ontario, and I always say this, that I had absolutely no idea the world was playing lacrosse at that time. Like, this was a huge eye-opener for me.
We were just kids at that time.
Yeah,
didn't know how big it really was.
Yeah, and like, I couldn't believe at the time they were celebrating like the most teams participating in the World Championship, and I was staying with the Iroquois Nationals at the time, and really got to dive deep into, you know, the lacrosse world, and made friends from other countries, and, you know, took time out of my day to go see other countries play lacrosse because I was interested to see, you know, like, how do they play the game, like, what's different about their style of play. And I made it my goal during that championship to actually get a piece of memorabilia from every single team, and I actually accomplished my goal and have like 24 unique sets of, you know, shirts and memorabilia from that tournament sitting at my house. I think that was a really big eye-opener for me, and kind of like set the stage for me wanting to, go into the business side and that professional side of lacrosse. And I think like following that up, my experience with the Six Nations Chiefs during the 2015 season, we ended up winning the Man Cup National Championship that year, and I was doing a lot of like the social media and the media marketing for the team at the time, so it was a really big eye-opener for me, and just how like indulged I could be within the sport and where I could take the sport with not actually playing it. So like, have you ever had other moments like that?
Yeah, I think that I think back to, obviously I think everyone, I get this question quite a bit, and one of them has to be, playing or winning the Minto Cup on our home soil. I think that one was something that it's got to be one of the biggest moments in my lacrosse career so far, and to have your entire community there and my entire family in somewhere where lacrosse is looked upon as, I don't even know how to explain it. It's something that it's so big here that kids growing up, it was so cool to to share that with everyone. We'd won it the year before in BC, but just to have it at home and have all our fans there, something I can't even really describe, and that's something I'll remember for the rest of my life.
So that just about wraps it up for us today. It's been an incredibly long journey, but I just wanted to take this time to thank all the players that took time out of their schedule to help make this book a reality. And I guess I also want to thank everyone who's joined us today on YouTube for our grand release. Akhwatsirehkó, My Big Family, will be available on our website at www.onlc.ca/shop for 75 Canadian dollars. And we'd also like to take this time to give a very big thank you to our teams at the Ontario Native Literacy Coalition and Turtles Bat Publishing. Michelle Davis, Rhonda Davis, Alexandra Rosetta, you guys all do a fantastic job, and thank you for the opportunity to bring this book to the world.
Yeah, and thank you so much. I mean, everything you guys have done for us, just giving us all the material we needed and all the time we needed, and being so patient with us, and working long hours, long after we were done, and to kind of get this thing off the ground. We truly appreciate it, and it definitely does not go unnoticed. So
big Niaogoa. And now we'll hand it off to Galiwanolo Square, who will bring our minds together with the closing address.
Ne ona gani gaja gora sura siaste wakali huyanda kwe undane. Ne dali hori henta sungwa disa sungwa ne ganu horusa. Ne weza gwego skana dado dunya. Ne gani ne ndo wahage ina aska ndo ne ngwani go. Aska ji danu hulada itagari na ndo ne ngwani go. Ne ona ndo toy ji honjare itinista hada itunoka. Ne ona jini ohe ne gani ne ndo wahage gwego Daitino laro to get a night dog in go. Ne on the tron and la hongal hiaga tanagal in this and great diso. Ne chat on this lager de Google agent allowed in Natsla. Negri ne the chino de Tino laro and la hongal hiaga tanagal in this and great diso to get a night dog going go. It's on Quack Gwenny, E. What do you hogella walking in a lot when a new horse that I need to.